Sound check test 1 2 1 2. We are live. Make sure this is public. This is public. Can you tell? Channel live settings on. Make sure we're live here. Pop out dashboard. All right, we are good over there. Good morning over there on YouTube. Let's just make sure we are live over here on everything else. Go live. 1 2 3. Over here. Start 1 2 3. Boom. We'll see that come in over here and over here. So let's see. Are we good on good morning over there on YouTube? Rumble, we're good. X, we are good. Let's make sure LinkedIn is working. Facebook, claim working. LinkedIn says it's working. TikTok looks like it's working. That looks like we got everything working, and yeah, looks like we got everything working, and as close to on time as we have been so far. We're getting this going. And by the way, over here in our world, on time means early. So good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Let me get my pinned comment over here on IG. Wherever you are checking in from, make sure you're following me on more than one application. So I'm live right now on YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and there's one that I forgot. YouTube, Rumble, X, LinkedIn, Facebook. YouTube, Rumble, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. That TikTok, I forgot. So good morning over there on TikTok. Y'all see what the topic is. I told y'all we will be talking about this here today. We're going to talk about what happened with the healthcare CEO last week. I believe that was in New York City, where he was attacked, lost his life. And it's not really specifically about him. We're going to talk about the healthcare industry and the problems people have with the healthcare industry, why people would be so, first of all, why someone would be mad enough to do that or have been asked to do that. Who knows? We don't know yet because they haven't even found the guy who did it. At least the last that I checked, they didn't even find the guy who did it. And also what I noticed on X was that a lot of people had a lot to say about this when it happened to him. So we're going to get all of this. We're going to get into all of this here today. Someone say he staged it. Yeah, I don't know about that. If he did, I need to see the news report. I need to see the source, the verification of that one. But let me introduce myself first, then we'll get into the topic. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year pro athlete, author, 35 books on 4 TEDx talks. I own a company called Work on Your Game. Here we work with salespeople, entrepreneurs, business professionals who are ambitious and serious about taking your game from where it currently is to where you want it to be. That starts on the basis with your mindset, the way that you're thinking. Then we move into the strategies, meaning what you're actually doing and how you're doing it. Then to systematizing, how do we do it consistently over and over again and in a predictable way? And then lastly, accountability and implementation, making sure that things are actually getting done the way they're supposed to. You can find out more about that if you just go to the link in my bio, which is workonyourgameuniversity.com. So topic again here today is about the healthcare CEO. And again, it's not really about him specifically. It's just about the whole issue with the healthcare industry. And let me look this up real quick while we're talking about this, because I didn't even put this. So the guy was actually, I'm seeing it right now in my feed on X. I almost called it Twitter. And that guy's, who was his name? Brian? Yeah, so Brian, and his last name was, I don't even have his last name up here. Brian Thompson? Okay, so Brian Thompson was the healthcare CEO. I believe the company was called United. And lost his life last week in New York. And I saw on X, what was really interesting to me on X was that a lot of people seemed excited, almost happy, almost in a celebratory state because this guy had lost his life. And I said, these people are, of course, we know it's social media. So people will feign depravity on social media because people can say crazy things on the internet that you would not say in your real everyday life. And of course, you have anonymity on social media. So people can talk crazy behind an anonymous account on the internet and, of course, say wild things that they wouldn't say in their regular lives or that they wouldn't say if their profiles were public and everybody could actually see you and know exactly who you were. So, of course, people were talking kind of wild about that. But to me, it seemed like people were much more upset with the system itself, the system of healthcare. And how many of you, let me ask just by show of responses, put the word me in the chat. If you have a healthcare situation, I mean, with the company that you're dealing with, that you just do not like them, you don't like the setup, you don't like the situation, you don't like kind of where they may, let's just say, have you stuck in. Any of you have a healthcare situation right now that you just don't like the system itself? Put the word me in the chat. And let's just see how many of you have a situation like that. Because it seemed like when I was looking through X last week, a lot of people were just really not happy with healthcare, period. So this random guy who most people don't even know who he was, I never heard of this guy. And I bet most of you had never heard of him until he lost his life. Then all of a sudden people were just venting their frustration with healthcare, period. And they're like, well, they would tell stories like my grandma got this. So I see a lot of you saying yes. So people are talking about how their grandma got this issue and a kid had to be in the hospital and how your claim got denied and how you had to spend this much money before the insurance would kick in. And a lot of people were just saying stuff like that, not about this particular company, but just about the healthcare industry, period. So what it appeared to me is that a lot of people were venting their frustration because the CEO who lost his life, Brian, he was just a figurehead. He was just representative of what really frustrated you. Same way it works in the United States as a whole, that when we're frustrated with the government, or not even with the government, when you're frustrated with your current situation, your living situation, and you happen to live in the United States, well, we vent our frustration by getting mad at the president, because the president is the figurehead who represents here's what's happening in America. So if you're frustrated with what's happening in America and a Democrat is the president, then you might vote for the Republican, or you might not vote at all, or you'll trash the Democrat, even though what's happening in America or what's happening in your everyday life is not really because of the president. I mean, I know it sounds good to make it seem like it's because of the president, and we know that political opponents will use that against them. Well, hey, you don't like the price of your groceries is because of the president, so vote for me so we can fix the price of groceries. That's not really how it works. And any of you who still thinks that's the way it works, it is never that simple. It doesn't work that way. But at the same time, when you assume a leadership position, what you all should understand, either about yourself, if you ever assume a leadership position, or about others who are in that position, is that when you're the person on top and you're the figurehead, whether you're doing actual work or not, everything that happens with that organization is going to reflect back on you simply because you're the one in charge. So if you stand up and say, I'm going to lead the country of America, and you become president, now anything that goes wrong in America, people are going to they're going to lay it at your feet because you're the person, even though you may not have anything to do with it. So let's say you're the president and there's potholes and all over the streets in San Francisco. Somebody driving through San Francisco is going to get annoyed. Well, why are all these potholes in the street? Wasn't this president supposed to fix infrastructure and do all this stuff? And that's not really, I mean, the president has a lot bigger fish to fry than thinking about the potholes in San Francisco. And that you could also say that's a state level thing to be dealt with, or a city level thing to be dealt with. But because you're the president, anything that goes wrong in that space, people are going to tell you about it, and you're going to have to deal with it. This is the reason why it's such a stressful job. So again, look at the pictures of Barack Obama when he first became president, and look at his picture after he was done being president. Part of that was aging, and another part of it was stress. If he hadn't been president for those 8 years, I guarantee he wouldn't have had as much gray as he got after those 8 years. And it looks like he has not aged as much in the, what was that, 2000, and he won 2008, and since 2016, the last 8 years, doesn't look like he has stressed or aged as much in the last 8 years as he did during the 8 years that he was president. So this is why the CEO of that company got the blame. Or again, we don't know exactly what happened or why it happened. They haven't found the shooter yet, but people were excited in a positive way, or at least they sounded excited in a positive way. And there was enough of it that I think people really believed this on some level, that they were happy that the CEO died, because they're mad about the healthcare thing. And they're like, well, my aunt died or my grandma died based on something that the healthcare system does. So it's only right that the healthcare person, they go down as well, which again, logically makes no sense, but emotionally, I understand it. So the second point is this, that what's happening in America in general, and people getting mad at, let's say, CEOs, or getting mad at, quote unquote, the rich, or whatever, whoever you're referring to when you say the rich. You hear people talking all the time about taxing the rich and how we have to charge more taxes to the rich so that we can smooth out income disparity. See, the biggest issue is that people are feeling a growing frustration, or the flames are being fanned of this growing frustration of, you're here and there are other people who live in America who are all the way up here, at least on a financial and living lifestyle basis. And what happens is people hear that over and over and over again. And then you have these really smart people who I don't agree with ideologically, but I can't say that they're not smart. They're really good at stirring up the masses and getting you all excited and angry about the fact that these people have this and you only have this. And you keep hearing that over and over again. You may eventually start to believe it. And then you're going to start voicing it. Well, why do these rich people get to not pay taxes? And I'm going to tell you a story about that in a moment. These rich people don't get to pay taxes, or they don't pay as much as us, or like Joe Biden, he said this over and over again. They had to pay their fair share. And Barack Obama used to say it as well, their fair share, whatever that's supposed to mean. And they say it the way it's framed is to have the everyday person who's making the average salary. Let's say you're making somewhere under $80,000 a year, and you're getting taxed fully because you're making your money from your paycheck, and the money is taken straight out of your paycheck before it even gets to your pockets or to your bank account, and you're paying the full amount. And now these people who run businesses, they have all these different tax shelters, and they have these accountants, and they have these intricate financial situations to where they can avoid paying taxes. You get somebody like Donald Trump, who in 2016, if you remember the debate between him and Hillary Clinton, and Hillary tried to use it against him and say, well, Donald Trump hasn't paid taxes and he won't submit his tax returns, and he's avoiding taxes for years. And Donald Trump came out and said, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm smart. It's smart that I'm avoiding taxes. Why would I want to give money to taxes? And he came out and just admitted it, whereas most politicians would try to walk around it. He came out and admitted it, and it created this dichotomy between people who are looking for ways to, let's say, avoid taxes, i.e. the rich, or Donald Trump and his rich billionaire friends, whoever they happen to be. And Kamala Harris used this a lot against Trump in the last campaign. It didn't work overall, but overall, in a way, it did work. It didn't work in that she did not win, but it did work in that a lot of people hearing that message over and over again, because you hear any message often enough, you're going to start to believe it, unless you've already been trained to not believe it. That a lot of people are looking at Donald Trump and saying, well, he's a billionaire, and all he's going to do is bring a bunch of other billionaires to come work with him, and everything they're going to do is be by and for other billionaires. So if you're not a billionaire, then why would you support Donald Trump? Because he's not going to help you out. This framing starts to get into people's minds. You hear something over and over again, you're going to start to believe it. So this is happening, and this income disparity, or this wealth disparity, or let's just call it a resource disparity between certain people in the world, let's just say America, and certain people in other places, is creating this gap, and is creating this growing conflict that it seems like politicians and people who talk about politics and people who are on whatever side ideologically, politically, or just socially is creating this big gap. And this gap does exist. We can't act like this gap doesn't exist, because it breeds growing frustration. And there are a lot of people who are frustrated about this. Let me ask this question. How many of you feel that there's an unfairness between the way that you live and the way that, quote unquote, the rich, whoever you consider to be the rich, how many of you feel that how many of you feel frustrated over the gap between you and whoever you consider to be the rich? If you consider that I consider it a boogeyman that they've created, but I want to know what y'all think. How many of you feel a frustration over how you're living versus how you are told, or at least how you think, or maybe you've seen the rich live? And we're going to talk about that. Okay, so I see several of you in what's going on, Brittany, good morning. I see several of you in the comments saying that you feel some frustration about this. Well, I'll tell you this. Here's the way that I look at it. I look at it differently. I understand where you're at, because someone said there is a gap. I agree there's a gap. I'm not disagreeing that there's a gap. Again, I said it's a real thing. There is a real gap between, and you can just look at this statistically. So when they talk about the average, if you go and look up, and different websites have different numbers, but if you go look up what type of income does it take to get into the top 50% or 10% or 1% of income earners in America, let's say you want to get into the top 10%, you're looking at about $200,000 a year, somewhere between 200,000 and let's say 350,000, depending on who you ask and depending on what stats they're looking at. Somewhere between $200,000 and $350,000 a year, generally comfortable, no matter where you live. Actually, 200,000 to 350,000 will afford you a generally comfortable life, damn near anywhere in America. Certain places that are high cost living, let's say New York, certain parts of New York like Manhattan or Brooklyn, the San Francisco Bay Area. Maybe Miami, certain areas of Miami and Miami Beach, then you might be looking at a little bit higher number. Another high income or high cost zip codes, you might need a little bit more than that. But generally, that puts you in a pretty good space, about 10%. I'm bringing this all of this up to say something. We move up to the 1%. The 1% number is very high. And the reason the 1% number is very high because the people at the very, very top, they're pulling the number up. So if you take those billionaires, let's say who live in America, their number is so high, let's say their wealth amount or whatever number you want, whatever metric you want to use is so high that it makes the rest of the numbers get pulled up. If you eliminate the billionaires, the number will come down a little bit more to where it would be around $800,000 a year. We get you in the top 1% if we didn't count the billionaires' money, because the billionaires' money pulls that number up into the millions. But if they didn't count, you'd be looking at around $800,000 a year. And people look at that, even whether they were talking 800,000 or into the millions, and they're like, well, I'm not at that level. And you look at your situation, and you say, well, maybe I'll never be able to get to that level. But then you look at the CEO, they got a bonus of $22 million, and the company they just bought more stock, and they're able to put money away for this thing and that thing. And now they're raising prices. And you heard like Chipotle raise prices. They said they're raising their prices 2% on all of their food. And that's a real thing. Chipotle just announced over the last, it was like a couple days ago, they're raising the prices of their bowls or everything, the bowls, the burritos, everything that they're selling. And people get frustrated with that. Like my costs, and I'm speaking as maybe some of you, my costs every day are going up. Gas costs more, groceries cost more, food costs more, rent costs more, insurance costs more, all kinds of insurance costing more. Yet my wages are not going up as quickly as the cost of life is going up. And that's kind of like, it's like if you're standing in water and the water is slowly rising, but you don't know how to swim. And eventually the water is all the way up to your mouth and your nose and your eyes, and eventually you're going to drown. So I understand why people can be frustrated with this. I tend to look at it differently. So let me tell you how I look at it. The way I look at it is that when you look at quote unquote the rich, whatever you consider the rich to be, usually when people say that phrase, they mean someone who is at several levels above them when it comes to income, wealth, no matter where you're at. You can make $100K a year. You can consider the rich someone 10 levels above you. You can make $20,000 a year. The rich is someone several levels above you. So anyone who has this issue with quote unquote the rich, the way that I look at it is that, can we look at the possibility? Can you envision the possibility of actually joining them rather than envying them and considering what they're doing wrong versus what you're not doing? That's just the way that I look at life, period. I've always looked at life this way. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm just talking about period. So if you're at one level, let's say you're at the level with the average masses, whatever you consider that to be. I think some of you probably consider yourself amongst the average masses. If you're amongst the average masses and you know that there's a group of, let's just call them for sake of conversation, the elites who are way higher up and they're making more money and they have more access, more resources, more wealth, or whatever the thing is that you would want. And you see that they have it and you see that you don't have it. Does any of you, let me just ask the question. Just give me a simple yes or no in the comments here. Do you ever consider the possibility that you could be one of them? That's my question. Do you ever seriously consider the possibility that you could be one of those people? Just a yes or no. How many of you considers that? If you consider yourself to not be amongst the elite right now, do you consider that one day you might be able to join them with the right move, the right break, the right opportunity, the right situation, the right actions, the right effort, et cetera, et cetera? Do you think that it's actually possible for you? I find, and I'm asking, the way I'm framing this is, I think most of you are going to say yes. I don't think if your answer is no, you're probably not going to tell me. But I think in my experience in life is that most people do not think it's possible for them, which is why when his CEO lost his life last week, a bunch of people were happy because, well, he's a CEO and his company makes all this money and they didn't help me out with my claim, and my grandma got sick and my aunt died and all these things. And you look at someone like him, and you can probably Google how much money he was making. I don't know what the number was, but as much money as that company brings in, he gets this and he gets these bonuses every year. And look at what I'm getting. And the reason why the envy is able to be bred, the envy is bred because people look at him and say, I could never be him. So what else can we do? What else can we do? Getting rid of him gives you a little bit of a, what's the word? Like a spiritual victory, even though you didn't personally do it. And I would not suggest you do it. But him losing his life gives you a little bit of satisfaction because it's pulling him down a little bit. So I'll give you a couple stories here. So first of all, a person who I know who works in university, this is a person who was a professor. I heard them say something several years ago that I called them out on. And this person said they were talking about student early education. And this person had a child who was in early education. The child was in like second or third grade at the time. This is a professor with a kid in the second or third grade. And this professor said that there were students out there. Let me back up. So y'all remember during the scamdemic that, hey, Casa Mia Interiors, I see you over there on IG. During the scamdemic, there were, of course, a lot of kids couldn't go to school. So the kids got sent computers at home, and if the kids didn't have a parent watching them, then they weren't doing anything on the computers. But there were parents who have resources. They were investing in homeschooling during that time when everybody was out of school. And they would do these things called pods. Y'all know about these things, pods? So a pod is like, if I live in a neighborhood and I have some money, and then there's like 4 or 5 other parents in the neighborhood, and we all got money, and our kids are around the same age, we would all put our money together, hire like a homeschool teacher. The homeschool teacher would come to one of our houses because we all got a nice size house. And then all 5 parents would send their kids to that one house every day. And then the teacher would come and teach those 5 kids, that little group, teach those 5 kids every day. And they were doing this during COVID when everybody was not able to go to school. And what happened during that period, and again, this is the framing that this professor was giving. What happened during that period is that the kids whose parents had resources, they didn't fall behind in school because their parents had the resources to make sure they kept up. And they were actually advancing because they were getting taught in this small group during the time when other kids couldn't even go to school. And the kids who didn't have resources, or their parents didn't have resources, they were falling behind because they weren't getting any personal instruction. They got thrown this computer, and they got thrown a bunch of homework, I guess you could say, that they couldn't figure out because, first of all, the teacher's not there to help you. And secondly, the teacher's not there to help you, number one. Number two, the teacher might not know how to use the damn internet because a lot of teachers are not as computer savvy as they would be talking to a kid in a classroom of 25 or 30 students. And third, if you're a kid who's stuck at home because you can't go to school, but your parents have to work still, well, who the hell is watching you while you're sitting there with that laptop and you're supposed to be doing work? Well, the answer is nobody. And my mom works as a teacher, so I know this was happening, and she was showing me my mom is not computer literate. I mean, she's literate in that she's figured it out over the years, but she can't just be out there banging stuff out. She's not a computer person. So during this period of COVID, there were a whole lot of students, if their parents had resources, they were advancing and other students were stagnating. So the gap was getting bigger. So you know how they say the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? It does not just apply to money. It applies to all types of things. The people who have resources just continue advancing, and the people without resources continue receding and going backwards. So anyway, this professor said her proposal was this. She said that the kids who have their parents have resources, we need to pull those kids down so that the kids whose parents don't have resources can catch up. And I said, this is complete nonsense. That is antithetical to everything that I'm about. And it still is to this day. This is like 4 or 5 years ago, whenever COVID was. So that was 2020, so almost 5 years ago. And I remember when that person said, and this person I consider to be very smart. This is a college professor, so this is no dummy. And they're a parent as well. But that was completely ridiculous. They were saying, and this is I'm saying all that to help you understand the frame of what I'm giving you here, folks. It's not about education. The frame is about this healthcare CEO. But the frame that she was proposing is exactly how I believe a lot of people think. And a lot of people don't want to admit this. But if you listen to them talk and read the things that they write, they're telling you right there to your face that most people look at the rich, quote unquote, whoever you see at a really high level that's way above where you're at, And we'll just use the rich as a metaphor here. So I'm not necessarily meaning you're actually rich, but they look at the rich. Most people look at the rich, who is fewer than the masses. The masses are down here. The rich are up here. And most people in the masses look at the rich and say, if there was a way that we could pull them down to be more like us, that would make me happy, instead of asking themselves, what can I do to actually join them up there? Most people don't ask themselves that second question. Most people only ask the first question. What can we do to pull them down so that they aren't so far above where I'm at? And or you just complain about the fact that they're up there and you're down here without asking yourself again, is there a way that I can close the gap? Because closing the gap requires effort. It requires effort to close the gap. You know, as the saying goes, there are two different ways to have the tallest building in town. One is you can do the work to build your building to be bigger than everybody else's, or two, you can just tear down everybody else's building so that yours is taller than theirs. Most people choose the option of tearing down the other person's who has a taller building because it takes less effort to destroy than it takes to build. And in life, you're either building or you're destroying. And it's easier to destroy what somebody else has and pull them down than it is to do the work to catch up to where they're at. This is the reason why most people don't advance in life. Again, this is the reason why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Because the poor, and again, I'm using those terms as a metaphor, the poor tend to just look for ways to stay where they are, keep their heads above water, and complain about the rich. Whereas the rich are looking for ways to become more rich. And again, this is why the gap keeps growing. So any of you never understood why that happens, I just gave it to you right there. So I'll give you another story. I told you I was going to tell you two things. Someone said I'm gaslighting. How am I gaslighting? But I answer all questions and comments at the end, by the way. So I was in Miami. I'm in Miami now, but I was sitting outside. This is before I used to wear a suit every day. This is back when I was in t-shirts and shorts. So any of you been to Miami know it's too hot to sit outside in a suit, but I'm sitting outside, t-shirt and shorts at this, like a Capital One cafe, which is kind of like a Starbucks where they have Wi-Fi and all that. You can sit there with your laptop. So I'm sitting on the outside of the place and there's a whole lot of people walking around me. I'm sitting at the table with my laptop and some dude comes up and he says, "Hey, sir, we're doing like street interviews. Would you like to be interviewed? Would you be interested in being interviewed about, we're just talking about social topics?" And I said, "Sure." And then he seemed surprised that I said yes. So he was like, "You would?" And I was like, "Yeah." All right. So then we get up there to do the interview, right? And and they had like two producers, like two camera guys with the cameras. And y'all see these street interviews, right? Where they just stop a random person on the street, ask them questions. So they did that to me. And there's this girl asking the questions. And her first question was this. And I'm gonna know how y'all would answer this question. I'm gonna tell you how I answered it. And if you're listening, you could probably get a good feel how I answered it, but I'll tell you. So her first question was, do you believe that it's fair that billionaires don't pay any taxes, but all of us have to pay taxes? That was her first question. Now here's my question to you all. How do you think I answered that question? How would y'all answer the question? That was her question. Someone said the rich typically started rich. No one decides to be poor. Bishop, that's not true. But when I get back to comments, please remember that comment, because I'm gonna come back and address that. Because I'm glad you said it, even though it's not true. But I'm going to address that because a lot of people believe that, but it's not true. So anyway, when she said, so it would probably take too much typing for y'all to answer in context. So she asked the question again: do you think it's okay that people like us, she was talking to me, pay taxes while billionaires don't pay taxes? Well, my first response to her should be the first thing that any of you said. My first response was, first of all, this woman doesn't know me from anywhere. They just stopped me in the street while I was, sitting there on the table with my laptop. I said, "Well, how do you know I'm not a billionaire?" That was the first question. How do you know I'm not a billionaire? Or how are you just assuming that I'm not a billionaire? That's the question that all of you should ask. None of you said that, but that's the first question that should have been asked. And that's what I said to her. I said, "How do you know I'm not a billionaire?" And then she said, "Oh, okay, well, are you a billionaire?" And I said, "No." And then she said, "Okay, so is it okay that billionaires don't pay taxes while people like you and I pay taxes?" And I said, "Yes, it's okay." I see you, Kasumi, over there. Yes, it's okay. And the reason it's okay is because they're not committing a crime by not paying taxes. If the tax code in America allows you to avoid paying taxes, why would you pay them? Now, let me ask the question. How many of you, if there was a way for you to pay half as much in taxes as you currently do, would you do it? Or would you just pay the full amount? Put the word half if you would pay half. And if you would still pay the full amount anyway, even though you don't have to, you would pay the full amount. So tell me what you would do. Would you pay half or would you pay full? If you could legally pay half as much in taxes as you pay now, would you pay half as much or would you pay the full amount because it's your duty to pay your quote unquote fair share, as Joe Biden said often? What would you do? All right. So I see all of you talking No, I say if it's legally, Cedric, if it's legally available to you to pay half as much, would you pay half or would you pay the full amount anyway because you feel like it's your civic duty to pay taxes? Again, Joe Biden said this all the time. He kept using the term fair share. He used the term all the time. What would you do? All right. So everybody who responded, all of you said half. All right. And well, one person said, Dirty Bad Blogger said you would rather get taxed. So you would pay the full amount, even though you only need to pay half. Okay. So everybody, so someone said, bro, obviously half. Well, let's ask the question. This is the reason why it's okay for billionaires to quote unquote not pay taxes. And her question was a false question because it's based on a false premise that billionaires don't pay taxes. They do pay taxes. First of all, every time you buy something, you pay tax. Every time you purchase something, there's tax. So nobody is completely avoiding taxes. Secondly, the biggest tax that every American pays is in a form of inflation. It's not the form of the taxes you pay to the government every April, every tax season. Those are not the biggest taxes you pay. The biggest taxes you pay are in the cost of things that you pay for. Everything that you pay for, the price is slowly going up because of inflation. I did a whole live on this. It took about 2 hours, about a month and a half ago, explaining to you why inflation is the biggest tax and nobody can avoid taxes because we all pay for things. Third, if you're a billionaire, usually you didn't get that money by working at a job. Nobody who became a billionaire got there by working at a job. You got there because you own some type of asset that produces money, usually some form of a business. You have employees who pay for you. And any of you who has employees, any of you have employees like W-2 employees who you write a paycheck to, are there taxes on that? Any of you listen to this, please confirm or deny. If I got it wrong, let me know. Let everybody know I got it wrong. If I got it right, let me know I got it right. If you have employees who you pay and they get like a paycheck from you, like pay stubs from you every month, I'm not talking under the table, but over the table, do you or do you not pay taxes on the fact that you have those staff? Of course you do. So you're always paying taxes. So a billionaire can't avoid taxes. Impossible. The only taxes people talk about avoiding are, again, the April 15th taxes every tax season. But there's a lot more taxes that we pay every single day. So billionaires do not pay taxes. It's a common term that's been used over and over again to the point that it's been accepted into society, but it's actually not even true. But the spirit of her question was that they can find ways around taxes that the everyday person who has a 9-to-5 job and you get a check every 2 weeks, you cannot use those same tools that they use. So I understood the spirit of her question, even though the letter of her question was false. It was a fallacious question. But the answer to the whole thing of what I'm saying here is that if the tax code allows you to walk around paying money to the government, why would you not do it? And all of you just confirmed that you would do it. So here's what I say to you. Let's take it another step further. If there are ways that you could avoid taxes and keep more of your own money in your own pocket to do what you want to do with it, why would you not look for those ways and use it? One of the simplest ways to do this is to be some form of investor or own some form of business. That's the way you do it. When you own a business, that provides a tax shelter, so to speak, where you can avoid taxes in ways that you cannot from a W-2 pay stub. So any of you familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, he has a whole concept called the cash flow quadrant, where you have 4 sides. You have the employee, you have the small business owner, you have the business owner, and you have the investor. The people on the employee and small business owner side pay the most taxes because you get taxed up front, and especially employees. Employees pay the most in taxes percentage-wise because the money gets taken out of your check before you receive it. You don't get a choice as to what to do with your money because it comes straight out of your check. That's how employees get taxed. So any of you who has a job, 9-to-5 job, you are paying the highest percentage of taxes of anyone in the country simply because the government is able to dip into your money before you have a say in what happens with that money. And then you get some of it back in a tax refund sometimes, depending on your situation. Whereas investors and business owners pay the least amount in taxes. And I'm going to tell you why they pay the least amount in taxes. That, again, doesn't get told to you by politicians. But they pay the least amount in taxes because, first of all, you get all of your money. So if I go sell something today for $100,000, I get all the $100,000. The government does not get to take $40,000 out of it for taxes before it comes to me. It goes straight to me. Then they send me a bill and say, this is how much you owe us in taxes. But I can take deductions. There's a lot of things you can do. Of course, any of you who's an accountant, you understand this. You can take deductions. You can defer taxes. There's a lot of things you can do to save on your tax bill when you run a business that you could not do if you made that same 100K from a job. Now, why does the government give tax breaks to business owners and investors? Because this is an important question that all of you should understand. This is basic stuff, but this doesn't get taught in school. So if you didn't learn it outside of school, nobody would ever have told you. The reason why the government gives tax breaks to business owners and investors is because business owners and investors create jobs. And creating jobs is exactly what makes the economy run. So if I start a business today and I hire 3 people, I just took 3 people from being unemployed to being employed. And guess what? Those 3 people who are now employed, what do? They get a paycheck. And before that money in their paycheck goes to them, where does it go? It goes to the government. So see, the government doesn't tell you this. See, Joe Biden doesn't tell you about this part. Kamala Harris didn't tell you about this. Donald Trump won't even tell you about this. The reason why the government likes business owners is because we create jobs, and the more people who have a job, the more people are getting a paycheck, and the more people who get a paycheck, the more money the government can take from them before you have a say in what happens with that money. See, that's the part they don't tell you about. And that's why they're happy when jobs get created, because now we can tax these employees. So one business owner, 50 jobs, that's 50 people getting taxed. So they're happy to give me a break. They're happy to give me a break on my taxes because they just got to take money from 50 of my employees. They don't care about taking money from me. They just take money from y'all, the employees who work for me. All right, this is the gig. And again, ain't no politician going to tell you any of this, but I just explained it to you. That's exactly how it works. So let me continue. I went on a deep tangent there, but I'm just trying to help y'all understand this. So let's get back to the healthcare system, because that's what we're supposed to be talking about here today. But as y'all can see, sometimes when I get going on a certain topic, I got to make sure I give you the full context so you understand this stuff. So someone said on YouTube, Goatee Film said, it's true they create jobs, but it's definitely also the influence of political lobbies to help keep business taxes in check. Yes, that's also true. And we could do a whole hour on that alone. You're right. But there's a lot more to it. But in general, what I just said is accurate. That's the way that it works. Government taxes employees the most because you have no say over what happens to your money before they take it. Whereas when you run a business, you have all the say over what happens with your money. This is why you rarely see an employee getting accused by the government of avoiding taxes, because you can't. It's impossible for you to avoid taxes when you're getting a paycheck. You can avoid taxes when you run a business. And that's why you see or even people who are like contractors, like an athlete, an actor or actress, a musician. They may get in trouble with the government because they didn't pay taxes or they didn't file properly, because they have to file. Like, you have to actually put that money aside. So any of you, again, probably have heard stories of an athlete or not an entrepreneur, but sometimes an entrepreneur, but a musician or a rapper or some actor. They didn't pay taxes, or they make $1 million and they don't realize that half of that $1 million they got to put aside for taxes. They spent all the money and now they owe taxes, right? So that can't happen when you have a job, because the government takes care of it for you, which is not a good thing, as we've already talked about. You don't want the government taking care of anything for you. Number 3, the American health system, ladies and gentlemen, is based on profit, not health. Does any of you didn't know that? Did any of you not know that? Then you think the health system in America is based on health? It's not based on health. It's based on money. The United States is a capitalistic society, and one of the trade-offs of capitalism, not a negative thing, but a trade-off of capitalism, is that people will do things for money, which means they will sometimes sacrifice what you consider to be, quote unquote, the right thing in order to make $1. All right, that's the capitalistic society. That is the system that we operate in. There is no perfect system. And one of the imperfections of capitalism is that sometimes people will choose money over what you may consider to be the right thing. The United States, because our healthcare system is based on profit, is a for-profit system. Companies will do things to make money and to increase the value for shareholders, which is the imperative of a business. And see, this is where you get the conflict. And there's no right or wrong answer to this conflict, by the way, because some people talk about this in this utopian way as if there's some perfect answer. There's no perfect answer, because several things here. First of all, your business, any of you who runs a business, even if it's just you, the imperative of your business is to make money. That's the reason why you run a business, make money. And you want to increase the value for shareholders. Even if it's just you, you're the shareholder. You will own 100% of the shares of your business. Your job in running a business is to make as much money as you possibly can. That doesn't mean you need to do negative or bad things, but your job is to make money. That's the purpose of a business. Therefore, when your business number one priority is making money, sometimes you will do things that may not, let's just say, please the general public because you're focused on money, i.e. you may charge more money than you, quote unquote, need to, just because you want to make money. All right. How many of you in your businesses have ever had a customer complain that your prices were too high? Well, so what? The price is too high. It's too high for you, but it's not too high for the person who just bought from you. Is it your responsibility to make your prices low enough that everybody can buy from you? No. Right? So this is what happens in a capitalistic society, that sometimes people are going to get priced out of the game. And any of you who feels like you are priced out of the game in any aspect of your life, what I submit to you is, instead of complaining about the fact that the price is too high, ask yourself, how can I earn more money so that the price is not too high? Again, this is just a shift in paradigms. This is a shift in the way that you're looking at the situation. I'm not a fan of looking at something and saying, well, I don't have access to this. The price is too high. I don't have the money. They should lower their price. No, instead, you should ask yourself, how can I make more money so that the price is not too high for me? That's what I suggest. There's a car that you like, but the price of the car will be a little bit too high and is out of your range. Don't ask yourself, well, I wonder if the car is ever going to go on sale. Probably not. Ask yourself, how can I make some more money so that the car is in my range? All right, simple as that. And there's a lot of different ways to answer that question. The key is you have to ask the question. This is the key, is that you have to ask the question. When you ask the question, you are putting your mind, the most powerful tool known to man, to work to possibly answer it. Maybe you don't come up with an answer, but you should at least ask. Okay. So when it comes to the health system in America, here's the challenge that people have with what I just explained, because this is an ethical debate. Right? That the healthcare system is based on profit, not based on health. Well, some people say, well, health should just be a basic human right. How many of you believe that? Put rights, put the word right, R-I-G-H-T, in the comments if you believe that health care should just be a basic human right in the United States of America, that everyone just deserves the right to have basic health care and have access to health care. And it shouldn't be based on how much money you have, or if you have some pre-existing condition, or where you work, or where you live, or who your family is. And if you come from a family that has money, or you come from a family that's broke, you should just have a right to healthcare, period. So I see many of you saying that it should be a right, and a bunch of you saying that Ryan said it should not be a right. And somebody said, Buddy has a degree in yapping. That's right. I do have a degree in yapping. I take that as a compliment. So thank you. I see you one Race Alliance over there on IG. So this becomes an ethical debate. And I don't have an answer to this. It is an ethical debate. And I'll tell you why it is. Because if you're going to have a capitalistic society and you make everything open to competition, which is what capitalism creates, it creates competition, then companies start competing against each other. And this goes into the bigger web here. And it goes to what Goldie Film said over there on YouTube a few minutes ago, is that there's a lot of money at stake in the healthcare system in America, which means if some president came in and tried to do something like, and Kamala Harris alluded to this, she wasn't able to quite do it. Even Barack Obama, he did it with his Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Their aim was, we want to make healthcare more available to as many people as possible, even if you have no resources, right? Wasn't that the whole point of what Obama was aiming to do? He wasn't able to do it completely, but he tried. And Joe Biden, I don't know what Joe Biden really did about it. Kamala Harris was talking about it a lot. Donald Trump hasn't really talked about it at all, that they want to make healthcare available to everybody, regardless of what you have financially. The problem with this is there is so much money already entrenched in the for-profit healthcare industry that if a president came along and tried to make it into, we're going to remove all this profiteering from the healthcare system, well, do you know how many people that would affect? And see, this is the flip side that people don't talk about. So when Donald Trump, for example, give you an example, he comes in and he has this DOGE, right? Department of Government Efficiency. And this is supposed to be Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. They're supposed to come in and start tearing stuff apart, right? And firing a bunch of federal employees. And people are complaining. Well, if they come in here and they start firing and dismantling stuff and firing federal employees, a bunch of people are going to lose their jobs. And that's a negative thing, right? So people who don't like Trump are saying this. They're framing it that way. Well, what about the flip side of this conversation? If, let's say, Kamala Harris had won the election, let's say she runs again in 2028 and wins, and she decides, you know what, we're going to make healthcare completely available for everybody, and we're going to dismantle all the for-profit centers of healthcare in the United States of America. She couldn't actually do this, and I don't think she would win either. But let's just say that happened, right? Just follow my example here. Well, isn't that going to put a whole bunch of people out of work? All the healthcare workers who are able to make money from the profiteering, because there are a whole bunch of health insurance companies who have thousands of employees. These are the claims people, the adjusters, the people who take the calls, a lot of maybe even nurses and doctors. They make their money because the company that they work for is a for-profit company, which means the company makes enough profit to pay employees. So if you take that out and you get it all completely under the control of the government, yes, some of those people may get hired by the government, but not all of them. And you're not going to make the same amount of money working for the government that you can make working for a for-profit company that's making millions of dollars in profit every single year. So it's going to put a whole bunch of people out of work then. And that's going to make the president look bad because now unemployment goes up. So what president can reconcile that and make that work? The answer is nobody. That's why this becomes an ethical debate and that has no right answer. There's no right answer to this question because no matter what you do, you're screwing somebody on one side of the equation and it's going to make you, the president, look bad. This is why no president can ever do this. Only way this would ever happen, ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to understand. Only way we're going to get this, like a completely no profit involved healthcare system in the United States. I understand other countries have it. I know. I saw what's that guy's name? The chubby white guy with the glasses, Michael Moore. Is that his name? I've seen the documentary where he was talking about the healthcare system. I get it. He went to Canada and he needed some kind of healthcare checkup and he walked in. He sat there for 10 minutes, got exactly what he needed, walked out and didn't spend any money, no documents, no paperwork, no nothing. And in America, you got to go through all this stuff just to go to the damn doctor. I get it. Okay, I get it. I understand. But the only way this can happen in America, given where we are today, would mean we would have to have complete anarchy in our governmental system. Meaning, when I say anarchy, I mean real anarchy, like that would affect you and I on a day-to-day basis. That's the only way this can happen. Otherwise, it ain't happening because there's too much money involved already. And all the lobbying that goes on in DC, all the money involved in these industries, there's no way that this is going to happen. Like, this is not going to be some stair step thing. It's not like the Democrats win and it's going to happen. Barack Obama had 8 years. You saw what he did. He put something in place. That was his signature thing, was Obamacare. We still got the problem. All right, here we are. All right, healthcare CEO losing his life. So we still got the same problem. So despite Obama's best efforts, 2 terms, his best interests, and he got his thing through. He got Obamacare through. They fought Obamacare. He got it through. Still got the same problem. That this is not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. So this ethical debate, it will always be a debate that never has a right answer because how do you install this? How do you install this? You're going to lose a whole bunch of people money. And any of you knows anything about how things work when people are making that much money? We're talking tens of millions of dollars a year just for the CEO alone. Thank you, Psalms 46. I never saw that gift before, whatever that was. Thank you for the gifts, those of y'all on TikTok. I am seeing them. That when people are making that much money, you think they're going to just sit there and take it if you're just going to take away their ability to turn that profit? Would you? If you're making $20 million a year as a CEO of a company and the president comes in and says, you know what, we're going to eliminate the way this industry is set up. So you and your $20 million a year are just going away. You're going to have to get another job. You're going to have to go work at Chipotle. All right, you going to sit there and just let that happen? Yes or no? Are you just going to sit there and let that happen? I don't think any of you would just let that happen. And if you're making that much money, guess what? You're with a company that has some financial power and you know some people who know some people. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to go lobby down in DC because the president can't actually do any of this stuff. He has to go through Congress. You're going to go lobby Congress people to not let the president do what the president is trying to do. And that's exactly what they do. So when you get someone like RFK Jr. coming in saying, well, we're going to get the fluoride out of the water and we're going to get artificial stuff out of the cereals and the candies and stuff. I mean, it's a novel, not even novel. It's a noble cause what RFK wants to do. I think as a general idea, he wants to make America healthy again. I like the idea. The problem with trying to make America healthy again is that there are a whole bunch of companies who make a whole lot of money selling the nonsense that causes us to not be healthy. And they are not going to sit there and just let you take their money out of their pockets. They're not going to allow it to happen. They might lose, but they're going to fight. This is the point. See, it's one thing and you just go do something and nobody fights back. There's another thing. You're trying to take millions of dollars out of people's pockets. They're going to fight. And they're going to fight with everything that they got. If you think the negative things you heard about Trump and everybody he's adding to his administration are bad now, or wait till he actually gets in office and starts doing stuff. You ain't seen nothing yet. They're going to fight. This stuff, people don't just give away their money. Right? How many of you would just let somebody just take your job and not fight back? All right, people are going to fight against this stuff. So should healthcare be a right or a privilege for those who can afford it? Now, what do y'all think? Should healthcare be a right, or should it be based on people who can't afford it? Now that I've given you all of that, this is actually an unfair question for me to ask you after I've given you all of that. I think many of you will want healthcare to be a right. That's something that you can just get, like if you go to Canada and there are other countries where you get healthcare and it's free. The issue is the United States ain't Canada. I think all of you understand that. And if the government takes over the healthcare system, it may not be as good as it sounds on TV. That's what I think. I don't think, and I've said this already, I've given my sweeping critique of the United States government is that anything they've been in control of, they have not done a good job with it. And if they get in control of the healthcare system, it might sound good on paper that now you don't have to pay for anything. And you might just have to pay a $10 copay and that's it. And everything is controlled by the government. The problem is when things are controlled by the government, it becomes less efficient. Thus, the Department of Government Efficiency, it becomes less effective. And they tend to fumble the ball. The United States government tends to fumble balls. Pause. They tend to fumble the ball. Why does the United States government fumble the ball? Well, they're a bureaucracy. There's a whole lot of layers. There's a whole lot of people. There's a whole lot of red tape. And it takes a long time for anything to actually happen. All right, that's the problem with the United States government. And again, the United States government ain't Canada's government. Canada can probably do things a lot more efficiently than the United States because there's not as much red tape. The United States has a lot of red tape. And your healthcare situation, again, it might have looked good in that Michael Moore documentary that he put out like 15 years ago. It ain't going to look like that in real life. As they say, real life tends to differ from the lab tests. So healthcare being a right sounds good. All right, who's going to do it? Now, Obama tried. Kamala claimed. Donald Trump ain't said nothing about it. All right, how's this going to happen? All right, does any of you have a theory on how this would actually happen? I don't see it. But let's move on. I want to get through my points so we can take questions. All right. So physically attacking the CEO of a healthcare company is not going to solve any problems. I think all of you who have control of your mental faculties, you understand this, that just attacking the CEO is not going to do anything. All right. So you don't like some industry. You don't like the healthcare industry. Let's just go beat up and attack CEOs of healthcare companies. Not going to do anything. All it's going to do is lead them to just get more security. Now, every CEO of a healthcare company probably just hired some security guards to walk around with them. So it's going to be harder for you to do anything. You'll probably be the one losing your life if you try to attack one of them. So any of you was thinking about following up on what that guy did, don't do it. All right, so just going to make sure I'm on the record as saying that. Don't do it. You want to follow up on it. Again, most people who try this are not going to survive to tell the story. So here's my question to you all. Yes or no? Should CEOs of big companies receive less money as salary? Yes or no? Any company. I'm not talking just healthcare. The CEO of Chipotle, CEO of whatever, Nabisco, CEO of some tech company. Should CEOs receive less money? Should their salaries be cut? If they're making $30 million a year, then they're getting an $80 million bonus at the end of the year based on profits of the company. Should they receive less money or should they keep making what they're already making? What do y'all think? Yes means less money, and no means they should keep getting paid what they're getting paid. What do y'all think about CEO salary? What do y'all think about this? CEO salary. So I don't know what the average CEO, let's ask ChatGPT. See what ChatGPT says. How much does the average Fortune 500 CEO earn in salary per year? And again, this is coming up from ChatGPT, so y'all can take that for what it's worth. Not everything ChatGPT says is actually true. But where are we at? How much does the average Fortune 500 CEO earn in salary per year? Someone said less. So they say the average base salary for a CEO in America, Fortune 500 CEO, is $1 to $2 million per year. However, total compensation, when including bonuses, stock options, and other incentives, the average total compensation is around $15 to $20 million a year. So 1 to 2 million seems low, but when you add in all the other stuff they get, it's 15 to 20 million. And see those bonuses and stock options, that's where they put all the money, is in that part. And then the top CEOs can make well over $100 million a year, mostly driven by stock awards and performance-based incentives. So the stocks and bonuses dwarf the base salary. So the base salary is actually not that high. It's the bonuses and the stocks. So how many of you some of you think that's okay? Some of you think it's not okay. I think a lot of people say it's not good. I don't think there's a problem. I don't have a problem with it. The reason I don't have a problem with it is because In all of life, in any aspect of life, you get what you accept. And I'm saying that to everybody here. All right, whether you're a CEO, you're trying to get a job, you're a student, whatever, you get what you accept. If you're offered $10 an hour and you accept it, then that's how much you get. If you're offered $10 million and you accept it, that's what you get. So if you don't like that someone at some company is making X amount of dollars compared to your amount or compared to the other people who work there, then the question you should ask yourself is not, is this unfair and how can I complain about it? Instead, ask yourself, how can I get the unfairness working in my favor? That's the answer. That's the question you should ask yourself anytime you notice any level of unfairness happening in your life. How can I get this unfairness working for me rather than complaining about the unfairness working against me? This puts you in a more productive state of mind, and it puts you in a mental frame to where you can actually do something about your situation instead of having the situation do something about you. You should be happening to the situation rather than having the situation happen to you. This is a simple change in framing, mental framing. So removing the profit model, as I already explained, would destroy an entire system. It would destroy and eliminate thousands of jobs, and it will flip a lot of things upside down. This will lead to complete anarchy that I don't think many of you is ready to deal with. And when I say anarchy, I mean real anarchy, like in the streets, TV show type of anarchy. If you were to eliminate this industry, this healthcare industry. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean it is a bad thing, but there'll be anarchy in the process. And I don't think most everyday civilians are ready to deal with that. So here's the ultimate solution that I just explained. Positioning yourself to opt out of any system that may be corrupted, unfair, or unfavorable to you in any way. This is really what you want to do. Here's the bottom line solution, quote unquote, that I would give to all of you, regardless of how you feel about the healthcare system. Actually, based on how you feel about the healthcare system. You don't like the healthcare system. You don't like the tax system. You don't like the employment system. You don't like the educational system. You don't like whatever system you may be involved or entrenched in, and you don't like the way they're doing things. Here's your solution. All right, this solution works across the board for everybody. You need to do the work to position yourself to where you have the choice of opting out of any system that you believe is corrupted, unfair, or in any way unfavorable to you and your desires. That's what you want to do. You want to position yourself to where you can get out of it. So, for example, if you don't like the educational system, you don't like what they're teaching in schools, you believe the schools are teaching some stuff that you don't want your kids to know about because it conflicts with the worldview that you want to install in your children, then you need to get your kids out of the educational system. Now you say, well, I can't do that because I got to go to work every day and I can't afford to homeschool my kids and I can't afford to put my kids in a pod, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. So that's the issue that you need to address. See, that's not a circumstance that you can't change. That's the thing to address. I'm not in a position to do that. Then we need to change that so you are in a position to do it. You don't like the healthcare system. You don't like going through the insurance companies because they take too long with the claims, and then they deny your claim. Then you got to do all this. Then you got to file like 10 pages of paperwork, and you got to get on the phone, and you got to be on hold for 30 minutes, and then they get on the line and they're rude to you. And you don't like any of this process. What I suggest you do is go fix your income situation to where you can get privatized healthcare and hire the doctor that you want and go see whatever nurse or doctor or specialist that you want to, and you have control over it, and you get actual service, and they actually listen to you and do what you want them to do, and they're not just acting like you're a number and they're treating you like an actual person. Go to where you're actually getting that, and if it costs more money, then go get the money and pay for it. And some of you may be hearing this and saying, well, Dre, that sounds really idealistic. It sounds easy to say when you're just talking about it. Well, you're right. It does sound idealistic. And what's wrong with creating your life in an idealistic way? Why not? What's your other option? Even if you can't do it right now, even if you're not in a position to do this right now, you should at least know what the ideal looks like so that you can aim for it. All right, if you want to drive a Maybach car, but you don't have the money for it right now, you should at least know how much it costs, so you know what you're aiming for. How many times do you hear somebody say that they can't afford something? How many of you have ever told yourself you can't afford something, you don't even know how much it costs? All right, that's a mental disease, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of health, it's a mental disease to tell yourself that you can't do something or something is out of your reach and you don't even know how exactly it would be done, even if you could do it. You say you can't afford something and don't know the price of it. That's a mental disease. You got to fix that. So the first step in creating an ideal life, whatever parts of your life you would want to be ideal, the first step is finding out what does it actually look like. What does it actually cost? Like the actual price. I want this car. I want this house. I want this situation. I want to have this for my kids. I want to do this, that, and the third. You need to find out exactly what it costs. I mean, literally to the dollar. So you know what you're aiming for. You can't score without a goal. You can't hit the target. You don't have a target. And many people don't have a target. They just tell themselves they can't do something. You don't like the legal system. All right, then opt out of the legal system. Stop finding yourself in it. You don't like the financial system. Get out of it. All right, whatever it is that you're dealing with, the good news about the world that we're in today is that you have options to get out of it if you are willing to exercise those options and you're willing to look for what it would actually take to exercise the options. Again, find out what you're aiming for, even if you can't hit the target yet. Okay, so you can't afford that car that you want. At least know how much it costs so you know what you're telling yourself no to. Many of you tell yourselves no to things you don't even know the answer. You don't even know the question that you're saying no to. I can't afford that. Well, how much does it cost? Well, I don't know. When I was turning 16 in the state of Pennsylvania, I'm from Philadelphia, PA. The state of Pennsylvania, the legal age to drive, at least when I was growing up, was 16. So when I was turning 16, my mom asked me, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, I want a car. Now, mom got this look on her face where she was like halfway annoyed and half disappointed. And she said, we can't afford that. But what she didn't ask was, well, what kind of car? She didn't ask, what does it cost? She didn't ask, well, what about the insurance? She didn't ask, have you actually looked into cars? She didn't even consider, she didn't entertain any of that. She immediately just shot down my idea by saying that we can't afford it. And this is a mental disease. And I'm bringing that up. I'm telling you, this came from my own mother. I'm bringing it up to help you all understand. I'm not talking to you from some elevated position. I come from a lower middle class background myself, and I had to undo a lot of this bullshit mentality that was passed down to me from my parents. And many of you had the same issue. And unfortunately, some of you are teaching this bullshit to your kids. That's why I'm pointing it out, to make sure you don't do it. So again, this all starts with the way that you think about the situation. You change your thinking, then you give yourself the option of changing your actions. If you don't change your thinking, you would only have the choice of changing your actions, because you're not even aware that you could be doing something different than what you're doing. If the awareness is not there, you have no options. Many of you have no options because you have no awareness. And awareness starts with the way that you think about a situation and how you see yourself, first of all, and how you see the things in front of you, second of all. Even if the things you see in front of you are things you don't want, you can at least empower yourself to do something about the situation. Again, you can apply this to any aspect of life. So let me recap real quick what I said, then we'll take questions. So the overall ostensibly what we're talking about here today is healthcare, but as you can see, we're talking about many things. So number one, is the CEO to blame? No, I think people are just mad at the system. The CEO is just a representative. Same way people are mad at the government, or you're mad at your life in America, you get mad at the president, even though the president is not the reason for your situation. But this is what comes with being in a leadership position, is people will blame you, even though it wasn't you to put them in that position. Second thing is income disparity and the growing frustration that people have. And this gets preached to you generally by people on the left side politically. They preach this whole concept of these people have more than you, and you should be mad at them for having more than you. And this is effective. This works. It's working right now as we speak, that a lot of people are mad at those who appear to have a lot more than you, even though what they have and what you have, that they are diametrically opposed. They have nothing to do with each other, right? Your situation has nothing to do with them. Some CEO making $10 million has nothing to do with you making $10 an hour. They didn't make you make $10 an hour. You didn't force them to make $1 million, $10 million, and you making $10 is not, that money that you're not getting is not going in their pockets. But people have been conditioned to believe that that's the situation, directionally, if not literally. Number three, the American health system is based on profit, and it turns into an ethical debate. Should it all be free? Should it all just be part of the rights of being a citizen? The problem is that would require overturning the entire system. There's a lot of money involved, and people who are making a lot of money tend to not allow their money to be affected so easily. They're going to fight back. So if you want this to be a right in America, then you would have to figure out, how do we actually do this in a way that doesn't cause too much chaos, or if you're okay with chaos. And I don't think most Americans are ready for chaos, at least not the type that I'm talking about. Physically attacking the CEO, don't do this. You don't like an industry, don't go beat up the CEO in the street. That's a bad idea. Should CEOs receive less money than what they're getting paid? My answer is no, they should not. If you accept that amount, that's what you get. And if you accept your amount, that's what you get. If you don't like something, stop accepting it. Simple as that. Number seven, removing the profit model would destroy the entire system. And again, that would mean thousands of jobs get lost, and it will flip everything upside down. And then you put it under control of the government. Again, tell me one thing the government has control over that they do very well. It ain't much. It's not much. And number 8, ultimate solution, folks, is for each of you individually to position yourself to opt out of any system that you are not in agreement with so that you are no longer subject to the system. Simple as that. You don't like the education system, get your kids out of it. You don't like the healthcare system, get out of the healthcare system. Pay for your own healthcare with your privatized doctor and get out of the insurance system if you don't like it. Again, this is available to you, but you have to be open to the possibility that it can actually happen. All that said, let's get into the comments and questions. Let me start over on YouTube. Godey says it should be, but the world doesn't work like that. It will be very expensive and bring down the efficiency of a lot of hospitals. Yeah, of course. And a whole lot of other things too. Godey said, at least in the capitalistic. Yes, exactly. America's capitalistic, and trade-off of capitalism, folks, is that people chase money. TJ said, yeah, including people who don't pay taxes. That's right. He said, I live in New York. I'm not on a Cadillac plan to health insurance, but I feel like I get good health care. I have to pay a deductible, especially for specialty visits. Yeah, see, some people are happy and some people are not. Speaking for myself, our healthcare plan is covering us pretty well. See, some people are okay, some people are not. Again, it depends on your needs as well. So the more healthy a person is, the less they're bothered by the healthcare system because you're not in it. Like, I'm a healthy person. I don't go to doctors. I don't go to nurses. I don't take medicines. I don't do prescriptions. I don't take any drugs. So I don't care. I would generally say I don't really give a damn about what's going on with the healthcare system because I'm not involved in it. It has no effect on me because I do things personally that keeps me out of the system. Now, I understand some people may not have such control over their circumstance. If a baby is born with some type of defect, they didn't do anything to make that happen. I understand that. And TJ said, I'm not saying there's not problems with healthcare. One of the problems is hypertension on the lower side of economics. Well, of course it is. I mean, that's what gets preached to them by politicians. And that works because that gets them votes. I understand why politicians do what they do, because if you can get votes doing it, why would you not do it? I would do it too. If I was a politician generally on the left side of politics, I would keep preaching this stuff because it gets the masses of people to ride with me and support me. And that helps me win votes and that helps me win elections. That's the game. Casa said, taxes rules are available to everyone. It requires a lot of work and risk. If we run businesses, we have employees and pay taxes on employment, we pay a lot of taxes. Yes, exactly. So everybody's paying taxes. So people act like some certain people do not pay tax. Everybody pays taxes on one level or another. All right, so I'm over on TikTok taking comments. If you got a question or comment, go ahead and post it now. Michelle said, that's a ridiculous statement when the majority of young people under 30 can't even survive. Michelle, what are you talking about? The majority of people under 30 can't survive what? I think they're surviving. I talk to people who are under 30. They seem to be surviving to me. What are you referring to? Cole P said, bro, it's healthcare, not a ducking care. I don't know what that refers to. The Angel Christopher said, healthcare should be affordable to everyone. Well, Angel Christopher, let me ask you a question. You ever heard the phrase, you get what you pay for? So how would you like some government level healthcare? How do you feel about government level food? How do you feel about government level? What's another thing government does that makes it quote unquote cheap? Do you like that? Anything the government has control over, I don't like it. And you've been to the DMV? All right, that's the government. I've never been to a DMV and enjoyed the experience. Anything the government controls that makes it quote unquote affordable to everyone usually is a bad situation. I like stuff that is maybe not affordable to everyone, but I'm willing to pay extra for it because I get a better experience. Birdie Burt said, that's why I stopped cruising with Disney. Why is that? Some of you leave comments when I'm talking, so I don't know the context. Matthew said, if you have a mental disability, what about the exceptions to your single path? All right, such as what, Matthew? Traditional all day says Canada has it. Yeah, I know. But the United States and Canada run things a lot differently. Ryan said, right means you enslave others. Oh, I don't know. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Brittany said, I do think our healthcare system needs help. Well, yeah, I agree with that. But how? Help in what way and from who? Who's it going to get help from? I think the best thing for any individual person is to get yourself out of the healthcare system, period. I'm not a fan of the healthcare system. I would ideally don't have to deal with it at all. That's my ideal outcome is not have to deal with it at all because I don't like the way it runs. Traditional said, I fought workers' comp for 9 years and lost after I won. They appealed corruption. I believe you. And that's the issue. That's the issue right there, what you just said. Birdie said Canada will become the 52nd United States. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Yet penalizing people. Yeah, I get it. I get why a lot of people are frustrated with the healthcare system. It becomes this existential question that there's no right answer to. Matthew said, what is the result of a pure capitalist society? Are we a pure capitalist system? I think we're close to it. I don't know if we're pure. That word pure there, that modifier changes the question. But we are a capitalistic society, and in the capitalistic society, people will go after money. That's just how it works. Brittany said, I think if I'm paying for healthcare, all screening, testing, and holistic care should be covered. That's an interesting perspective. And Brittany, let me ask you, has any politician pushed that concept? And if so, what happened? Somebody should push it if that could be a thing. The thing is, what would be the result? What's the trade-off of that is the question, really. What's the trade-off? Because everything has a trade-off. Tigray said Obama raised the price of my insurance. Yeah, that happened to a lot of people. People who could afford it, they had to pay more so that the people who can't afford it didn't have to pay at all. That was the trade-off of Obama's Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. But see, the people who can afford it, if they were to complain, then they would get shouted down by the people who can't afford it, because there's more of people who can't than people who can. And then you will look like some elitist who's, what are you saying? You're saying people who can't afford healthcare should just be left to die? Like, see, that's how people will push back on you if you bring that up. Tigray 1955, which I'm sure you probably had a conversation or two like that. MP Cree said, put a lot of middlemen out of work. Yes, that's exactly what would happen. Aquila says you have to have balance. Well, you don't have to. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Brittany said RFKJ will be the first. Yeah, we'll see if he does it. RFKJ has a lot of enemies. So anything he tries to do, he's going to get attacked hard. And also just in him even trying to get in the position, he's going to get attacked. Sandy said, how many so-called developed first world countries do not have a robust social health care program? I don't know. You tell me. How many? I'm only talking about America, so you tell me. Conquer with Cam said it might be happening. I don't know what you're referring to, but we'll see. MP said government shuts down every other year. Yeah, they usually get back to work, though, pretty quickly. In my experience, they usually come back. DJ Stiletto said Americans need free healthcare like other countries. Well, it sounds good, DJ Stilettos, but how are you going to do it? How are you going to cover that free healthcare? Because somebody has to pay for it. Where's the money coming from? DA says shouldn't all be at once, and any who want should be able to keep their private insurance. Yes, I think anyone who has private insurance should be able to keep it. That I'm 100% with. Dr. Latanya said, Dre, please try not to be biased with your answers. Well, first of all, Dr. Latanya, it's impossible for any human being to not be biased. Every human being has biases. So it's impossible for anyone to be completely objective. I try to be as objective as humanly possible, but it's impossible for any human to be completely objective because we're human. Sandy says, not every sector of our economy should be left up to capitalism. All right, such as what? Which sectors do you think should not be left up to capitalism? I'm open to your thoughts. MP said, your answer is the same stance for companies that push. I don't know about that. How so? And even if what you're saying, MP Cree, is true, fentanyl, is that just because they said something and I also said the same thing does not mean that we are equivalents. So what you just did there is a nice little language trick that people use called the false equivalence. It's just like people comparing something that Trump said to something that guy from the G country with the first name that starts with H with the mustache. Oh, well, Trump said this and that guy said that, so that means they're similar. No, just because they said the same thing does not mean they're the same person. So I see what you did there. There's a nice little trick, but no, it doesn't work on me. Matthew said automated jobs are taking many people's jobs. Businesses not care. Well, I'm not against that. If a job gets automated and any of you who does a job that can be easily replaced by a computer, then why would you not? Why would you pay a human when you could get a computer that costs a lot less money, doesn't need vacation time, doesn't need a salary, doesn't take work breaks, doesn't have bad days, doesn't need a cigarette break? Why would you pay a human if you could have a computer? What I tell people is that you need to up your skill level, work on your game so that computers can't take your job. Psalm said he knows what he's talking about, speaking truth, whether you like it or not. Well, thank you. And you got the number 1 badge right now, Psalms 46:5. Thank you. We got 11,000 likes. Thank you, Brittany, for telling everybody. Let's get more. Matthew said, you have made your value clear. Money matters more. It's not about money mattering more. This is a capitalistic society. This is how it works. I'm just reflecting to you what it is. I'm not saying that I don't run the country. I'm not a politician. I'm saying this is what it is. We're a capitalistic society and money drives the conversation. This is how it works. The people who work in these spaces can't say that out loud because they would lose a lot of voters. But this is how it is. Perhaps people's health should be a foundational priority. Whose foundational priority? I think your health should be your foundational priority. My health is my priority, but I can't prioritize other people's health. I can only tell you that the gym is over there. All right, I was in the gym this morning. Guess who was in there? Not too many other people. Brittany said, I think if I'm paying for healthcare, oh yeah, I saw that one. Obamacare still gives you, this is Birdie, Obamacare still gives you the right to have health insurance, but you pay from what you make. Yeah, it still gives you the right, but it did make a lot of people's numbers go up. I had a lot of people tell me their numbers went up. Cosmic says, all a house of cards. The man sadly lost his life. Was 20 mil worth it? Well, I don't think he took the check saying, well, I might lose my life if I take this check. So your question is a little bit tricky, the way you're wording it. Saki said, Canada healthcare is terrible right now. Well, see, we have a pushback on Canada. Matthew says, so capitalist companies have made healthcare the best. So when you start a question with the word so, that means you're about to create a straw man question, which is exactly what you did. Straw man questions when you take something that I said, flip it into something that I didn't say, and then ask me a question about it. I didn't say that, so I'm not addressing your question. Tired of the crazy said, that's exactly right. More governmental control equals worse for people. Yes, we've seen that. We have examples of that already. Brittany said, Canadian healthcare is terrible for people who have cancer. So more serious issues. See, that's the thing. See, if you have some simple thing you need the doctor for, then a free system would be fine. But if you have something serious, then it becomes an issue. And that's the reason why RFK, Make America Healthy Again, the issue for healthcare for everybody, the best way to solve any healthcare issue is to not need the healthcare system. That's the best way to solve it, period. So you don't even need to talk to healthcare people. How many people are paying large monthly premiums and barely use their insurance? A lot of people. That's the same thing with car insurance. A lot of these insurance companies are big scams. I've been a victim. I understand. I get it. I do not doubt you. I do not doubt that the insurance companies can get over on you. It's a nice tie. How much does it cost? Well, thank you. How much did it cost? I don't know. I don't remember how much I paid for it. So the question is, if CEOs are doing great things, why so much hate? I never said anything about CEOs doing great things. I just said CEOs get paid what they accept. Soup Daddy says, yes, less money. Labor generates the income. Well, you can only have labor if someone creates the job in the first place. So you're not even half correct. You're like 25% correct. Labor cannot do labor unless someone creates a job for labor to do. So we can't leave that part out. So people talk about the labor, like the workers, so to speak, as if the CEOs don't matter or the person who starts a business doesn't matter. The person who starts a business matters because if no one starts any businesses, then a worker cannot have a job. We can't just ignore that and act like that's not part of the equation. Without someone creating a company, you can't have a job because you have nowhere to work. Pilly Vanilli said, we've been poisoned for decades. Well, that's true. I agree with that one. Let's see. So someone said it will provide sources now. I don't know what you're referring to there. Zay 1100 said no, but pay. I keep losing my place here. Was this this? So someone said, I think it was Zay 100 said, pay employees a livable wage. Well, how much is a livable wage? Now, what's a livable wage? Who decides that number? I say if you don't feel the amount you're making is a livable wage, then get yourself a better job that pays more money. And if you can't get a better job that pays more money, then that's a reflection of your skills and it's their value in the marketplace, which means you need to step your skills up so that your skills are worth more money in the marketplace so that you can go out and create enough wage to live the life that you want to live. It's not the job's responsibility to pay you enough to take care of yourself. It's your responsibility to provide enough value so that you can command an amount that allows you to take care of yourself. But the job shouldn't pay you more money just because you need more money. If you're worth $10 an hour, you shouldn't be making 20. And if I'm running a business, why would I pay 20 to someone who's worth 10? That's business suicide. I shouldn't say that word. I'm hurting my own business by doing that, because I'm paying $20 to someone who's only worth 10. That means every hour I'm losing $10 because you're worth 10, but I'm paying you 20. So I'm paying $10 more than I should be paying to you. What I'm eventually going to do is fire you and hire somebody who's actually worth $20. That's what would happen when the minimum wage goes up, by the way. Any of you who's concerned about that. Minimum wage goes up, low-level employees are going to lose their jobs. It's not going to make everybody make more money. It's going to make low-level people have no money. So you're going to go from making not enough to making zero. That's what actually happens when you raise the minimum wage. We have progressive income tax, so society benefits from their tax dollars. Well, technically we do, Ed. The problem is, well, not the problem, but the thing is, the higher up you are, the more tax loopholes you have to work around to avoid paying taxes. Again, Donald Trump said this on the debate stage. It's smart to not pay taxes, because Hillary was trying to call him out for not paying taxes. He said, of course. Soup Daddy said 1 to 2 million is not low. Well, it depends on who you ask. Leadership coach said the stock market ruined companies. No one cares about the customer or employee anymore. I get the direction of your point. I understand that they focus on profits. Melanie said, I think one of the issues is price gouging. By who? What companies? You mean the healthcare companies? And I get the healthcare companies do. I mean, the thing is, how can you tell them what their prices should be? That's the issue. If I run a business, you can't tell me how much I'm supposed to charge. I get what you're saying there, Melanie. And the thing is, in America, this is the only country in the world. I told you, we're a capitalistic society. Only country in the world where pharmaceutical companies can just advertise out in the open. Other countries, you can't even advertise if you sell over-the-counter drugs. You can't advertise them on TV, ads, commercials, billboards, at the bus stop. Only in America can you do that. In other countries, they can't do that. And the reason that you're allowed to do it in America is because there's a lot of money to be made by selling people drugs. And the drugs become shortcuts. So don't work out for 30 years. You're in a bad physical shape now. Just take this drug for 3 months and all of a sudden you're in shape again. See, we sell shortcuts in America. And most people just want to take the shortcut. So question is, Brittany said, I think the bonuses need to be distributed better to the people actually helping the company perform. Interesting perspective. I can understand that. And some companies do give bonuses. Not like they don't give bonuses. It's just that the CEO bonus becomes news because it's a whole lot of money. And because the CEO is the one that everybody knows about. Or if anybody knows anyone, they know the CEO. Like, you know the CEO of a company more than you know Jeff Bezos more than you can name anybody else who works at Amazon. You know Steve Jobs more than you know anybody else who worked at Apple. So the CEO is just the most visible person. So that's why they get all the attention. Connie said people are dying because of that company's business practices. I understand the direction of your point. I don't think it's because of the business practices that people are dying. I think people do things and don't do things that lead them to being in the situation that they're in, and then the company is unable to save them. That's what I would say more accurately. But if someone ends up in a health situation, especially a grown adult, there are some things that grown adult did or did not do for many years that led them to that situation. We can't just put that on the healthcare company. I get what you're saying, but we can't just put that on the healthcare company. If you eat poorly, don't exercise, and don't take care of your body for 30 years, and then you end up in the hospital, we can't blame the healthcare company for you ending up in a bad spot. How'd you get there? Joe said, not everyone's offering the same amounts of money. That's correct, Joe. And that's based on what you can offer in the marketplace. It's called sales. The better you are at marketing and selling yourself, the better offers you get. And you got to actually have something of value to offer. If you ain't got nothing of value, you ain't gonna get no offers. Welcome to life. That's how it works. Leslie, Elevate with Diva, said, I like you. Well, thank you. I like you too. Soup Daddy said, this just isn't true. That's not how we should act. I don't know what you're referring to there. Sandra said, you get what you accept, but you don't accept, you get nothing. No, not necessarily, Sandra. You don't have to accept anything. You can go set things how you want them to be. So, for example, if you go into the job market and you don't like the job offers, you can start your own business. You don't have to accept anything. When you start your own business, you are the one making the offers instead of the one receiving the offers. So you don't have to accept anything. If you don't like what life is handing to you, you can make your own situation. If you move to a new town and you go to 3 different gyms and you don't like any of the gyms, you don't have to accept one of the gyms. You could say, all right, I don't like any of these gyms. I'm going to go buy some equipment off the internet, put it in my living room, and I'll build my own gym in the house. So you don't have to accept anything if you don't want to. The challenge is, Sandra, that many people don't see that other option. They only see the option of, I got to accept something. You don't have to. Most people choose to, but you don't have to. Most people choose to do things, and then they talk about it as if they didn't have any other choice. You always have another choice. But it starts with the way that you think, and it starts with awareness. Most people don't have the level of awareness to understand what I just explained. Melanie says, a travel contact nurse, I get this all the time. You get what? Connie said, that's an unethical frame of mind. I don't know what you're referring to, but unethical is a very subjective term. Soup Daddy said, the world's leading economists say you're wrong. Well, Kamala Harris tried that with Donald Trump. How'd that work out? I don't even know what you're referring to, but just that frame alone, the fact you even said that, the world's leading economists disagree with something that I said. So why do I need them to agree with me? I don't. See, this is the frame a lot of you don't understand. I don't need an economist to agree with me, or a college professor, or a doctor, or a nurse, or a politician. G Black said, I believe you should get paid what you're worth. Who determines what you're worth? G Black. And if, let's say, you believe you're worth $1,000 and nobody wants to give you $1,000, how are you going to get the $1,000? Brittany said, I also think that money can be better utilized and pay for employees' healthcare. Well, I think that there are companies out there to do that, Brittany. I believe there are many companies that do that. Not all of them do it, but there are many companies that do that. Cosmic Cat said, denying healthcare to maintain profits versus efficient service is wrong. Some say. I understand you. Some say. Not everybody says that, though. And at the bottom line is, whoever's controlling the purse strings is the one who gets to make the final decision. I think if they had to pay for our healthcare, this is Brittany, I think preventative and care and holistic care will quickly be approved. Well, who's they that you're referring to? Ikram said, any company that can offer that much to a CEO needs to recalibrate. Salary should be and it cut off. I generally don't agree with this frame. I think you get what you accept. And if a CEO accepts a job that says you're going to get $1 million a year and $10 million in bonuses, if you earn it, then they deserve their $1 million plus $10 million. And that does not make them wrong if the maintenance man is only earning $40,000 a year. It does not make them wrong. Equity, folks, is a myth. Equity is a myth. This concept that everybody can end up in the same spot is a myth. Equality is a myth. People are never going to be equal. Why? Because people are different. So equity and equality, whichever words you want to use, they're both myths. They are pipe dreams that will never happen. Walk Off Homer says that would happen in every other country. I don't know what you're referring to. Thank you, Magical. I appreciate that. Y'all like this tie? I like this tie too. Siobhan said, I homeschool and have a business. Yes, well, see, some people you can position yourself, not some people, but anyone can position themselves to do anything you want to do. It starts with awareness, though. Just awareness of, is it possible? That's where it starts. Doesn't mean you can do it today, but is it possible? Can you begin? Let's see. Connie said, kind of hard to do if you're dying from cancer or suffering from a chronic condition. Yeah, I understand. How did you get the condition in the first place, though, Connie? That's the question. This whole concept of diseases and sicknesses running in the family is a falsehood. That's not a real thing. Disease is not run in families. Now, you may have a genetic disposition that maybe you are more open to a thing, but it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get it. What runs in families is lifestyle. So if you see, like, I go to the grocery store, I go to Target, right? And I see some woman, not a woman, I see a kid 8 years old and they're obese. I'm like, how is this kid that big at 8 years old? And then I see their mom and dad with them and they're both obese. That obesity did not run in the family. They eat the same way. The parents are feeding the kid the way they feed themselves is how their kid is 8 years old and overweight. These things don't run in the family, or at least not the disease and the genetics. It's the lifestyle. The lifestyle leads to these things. Piano said, dude, what world are you living in? Last I checked, I was on planet Earth. Piano said, it's wrong. You're saying this to everyone. Not everyone has the capability to do that. Well, Piano, anyone has the capability of doing anything they decide that they want to do. Doesn't mean they can do it today, but they can put themselves in the position. It starts with the awareness that it's possible. That's my point, Piano. Leslie says, why do you wear a suit every day? Maybe I'll do a whole live on that. But I was wearing it. I started wearing a suit every day around 2022. I don't wear a suit every day. Saturday and Sunday on the weekends or holidays, I don't wear a suit. But I started, it was in 2022. I was doing a speaking gig in Orlando. And I've been watching this guy. There was a guy named Kevin Samuels. He passed away around that same time, 2022. But I was watching one of his videos and he was saying, he became famous because he was talking to women about relationships. But before that, he was talking to men. And one of the things he said in one of his videos was that any man should just wear a suit once a week, just to see how you feel different and how people respond to you different. And I said, that's a good idea. I'll try it, but I never did it. Then I was doing a speaking gig in Orlando. I live in Miami, and I wore the suit. It was like 9 a.m. when I spoke. And I just said, let me just keep the suit on all day because I was remembering what Kevin Samuel said. And then I wore the suit the whole day, and I was getting very positive responses from random strangers walking around Orlando. And then I went back home to Miami the next day, and I was wearing the suit again, and I was getting positive responses from people who I actually know. And then I said, well, I'll just keep doing it. And I've been doing it ever since. So that's why I wear a suit every day. I don't have to wear a suit. Nobody, it's not like I'm abiding by any kind of dress code or anything like that. But I like it. Cosmic said, hard when you don't know what questions to ask. Well, you're in the right place, Cosmic Cat. Tune into my material. I will help you with the questions. And I'm not joking. I will help you with the questions. Tune into my show. I got a show that comes out every day. It's called Work on Your Game. You can find it on Apple and Spotify. Every day, I will help you with this awareness, this level of awareness and thinking that will change the possibilities in your life. I do this for a living. I literally do this for a living. So, again, I'll help you out. And it says, I'm sure he has a top-notch insurance plan. He can afford it. Who are you talking about? Me? Melanie said, if you can't afford it yourself, it's not a good idea to start a family. Fair enough. I understand that direction, but my parents didn't have a lot of money when they started a family. I'm glad they did. I wouldn't be here if they didn't do it. Matthew said, we could work to change the system. Yeah, that sounds good. Every 4 years, someone comes along saying that. Hey, and again, the Democrats and the Republicans, they both say they're going to change the system, and slowly change can occur, but there's going to be fighting. People are going to fight. People fight change. So it sounds good to say that, but people fight change. Magatard said, work on yourself and put my fries in the bag, bro. LOL. Melanie said, price gouging is a problem. A Tylenol is $50 a pill. Tylenol costs $50? I didn't know that. So a free mind says, people neglect self-care, then there's more profit for the healthcare system. Yes, exactly. Again, that's why it's called a system. All right. The grocery stores feed us junk. We eat the junk. We get in worse physical shape. Then we need the healthcare system. And then they get you, once they get you in the system, you're stuck there. It's a system. All these pieces work together, ladies and gentlemen. There are no coincidences. Granny said, rent, mortgage, car is so expensive. Well, expensive is a relative term, Granny. How much is expensive? Sandra said, you can not accept things till you not accept yourself out to the streets. All right, if that's the way you see it, I'm not in the business of changing minds. If I don't like the situation, I can start my own situation. Yeah, the streets is this is a false binary, what you're presenting here. Melanie said, financial plan before a family plan. Again, sounds good. That's not the way everybody does it. And a lot of people wouldn't be who they are if everybody thought that way. We got to have a certain amount of money before we start a family. People start families when they're like 19, 20, 21 years old. They don't have money. They got jobs, they're barely taking care of themselves, but they want to start a family. And there's nothing wrong with that. They figure it out. Human beings are great at adapting and adjusting. So Matthew Stringer, you got to stop asking these straw man questions. I'm not answering them. I understand it's probably your normal way of communicating, but you got to come with some questions of substance. I'm not answering straw mans anymore. So Granny said, I have United and been treated good. Yeah, so some people say United is fine, then other people are trashing it. So this is what happens. So Zoo said, what do you mean do things to stay out of the healthcare system? Take care of your body, go to the gym, work out, drink water, get enough sleep. Don't put junk in your body. All of those things can keep you out of the healthcare system. I haven't needed to go to a doctor in a long time. You know why? Because I don't do bad things to my body. I take care of my body. I take care of my health. Stuff like that. That's what I mean. Privatized healthcare is a horrible experience. Well, it depends on who you got it from. How many of you, anybody here got privatized healthcare and you have a great experience? We can't just say as a blanket statement, Sandra, that it's a horrible experience. I don't think that's true. It's like saying going to a baseball game is a horrible experience. Well, it might be for one person, but another person had a great time. So Kayla Mazu said, you're willing to pay extra for it because you have the money, so many don't. Okay, well, if you want something and it costs more money, go get the money. Again, this is a mindset, folks. I'm not saying that going to getting the money is easy. I'm saying put yourself in a frame of mind that the thing that you want, here's how much it costs. Here's what I got. Here's the gap between what I got and what I need. Let me close the gap. Instead of complaining about the gap, let me work on closing the gap. That's why my brand is called Work on Your Game. We're not just going to complain about the situation. Let's figure out how we can close the gap. So let's say there's a car that I want and I don't have the money for it. Okay, how much does it cost? Let me first find out. How much does it cost? What do I have? Okay, how much does it cost? Or what's the gap? How do I close this gap? Asking the question gives you the opportunity. Opportunity is in asking the right question. A lot of people don't ask the right question. Texas girl said, my insurance is not affordable. My insurance, $2,500 a month for me and my husband, $4,000 deductible, high copay. Do you have the opportunity or the option of changing your insurance? If you don't like it, I would change it. Now, do they give you good service or what's the situation? United covers preventative screenings. Okay. Do you think America would be better under a different society like a social democracy? Hell no. No. Magical, good question. Capitalism is not perfect, but it is the best option. So this is another thing that you get from these idealistic people talking. They talk as if there's some perfect outcome. There are no perfect outcomes, ladies and gentlemen. There's a trade-off to everything. I accept the trade-offs of capitalism. I prefer capitalism over any other system. Because if we were to create everything and everyone being equal, well, first of all, that would decentivize people who go out and create and build. Because why would they do it if they don't get the benefits? And if you create anything where the government controls everything, well, we already see what happens when the government controls things. Not a good idea. Sandra said, pure capitalism means everything is a transaction, including your children, just a transaction. Right. So that word pure is a modifier there. I say we are a capitalistic society. I wouldn't say we're pure capitalism, but we are capitalistic. Thank you, Spicy Lavender. A free mind said, we're all part of the problem. We need to fix ourselves first to be part of the solution. Well, what's the problem? Free mind, you're talking about the problem. What is the problem? Have you identified it? So we blame the system while we lack self-responsibility and personal accountability. Okay. That I generally agree with that frame. Cosmic said, what happens when money means nothing? Yeah, that's the good question, Cosmic. What happens is anarchy. So any of you who's not a Second Amendment card carrier or you cannot physically fight, you don't want that to happen. That's why I'm saying y'all don't want anarchy. So you should be happy with the trade-offs of capitalism. Because if we get anarchy, any of you who's not capable of physical violence, you're in trouble. You're going to be the first victim. Sandra said, a lot of people tell me numbers went up, hasty generalization. What are you referring to? What did I say that? Melanie said, my private insurance only covers preventative, then I had to pay $9,200. Yeah, that's a lot. Take control of your own health. Yes. Pili said, we've been poisoned for decades. Good news about the human body is that you can undo the poisoning. I've taken in a lot of junk. I've eaten candy and ice cream and processed foods, but I can undo it. You can undo that stuff. Human body is a great adaptation machine. A free mindset, insurance is a scam until we need to get paid. A lot of people believe that. I understand your position. Pili said, the Make America Healthy scam line is for who? Why would being healthy be a scam? What's the scam about being healthy? Mom said, I can't tell you how many times my disabled son has been denied until I fight the fight. I believe that. I understand you. Brandon said, setting people up with the suit. I respect it, bro. LOL. What am I setting them up for? I'm going to take a few more questions and we'll wrap this up. Let's see. Burns said, healthcare is a crock, especially how my family pays $1,500 for health insurance with United. So a lot of you with United, huh? United got a lot of customers. Sandra said, if you don't like taxes, please tell us how you don't use what taxes pay for roads, education, Social Security, etc. Well, again, it's not as simple as your question. I understand people use that frame, but those things could be solved in other ways. If there were no taxes, we would still have roads. We would still have education. Well, education is a whole other conversation, Sandra, but I get what you're saying. Social Security, another whole other conversation, because some people don't agree with Social Security. Some people don't agree with education. I think everybody agrees with roads, and roads would get built one way or another, even if we didn't have taxes. So the other two are not equivalents. Burns said, why can they tell me no? I lost a leg. 51, worked since 15. Tell me no to PT. I don't know. You might have to talk to them about that. I can't answer that question. Brittany said, I get a bonus, but I'm saying a bigger bonus. Oh, you mean to the staff? I understand. At the same time, the CEO's job is a more important job than the rank and file people. That's just the reality of the situation. CEO's job is a bigger job. A CEO is harder to replace, and a CEO is harder to find than, let's say, the guy who cleans the bathrooms. Just the reality of the situation. Said, can you explain that again? The minimum wage goes up, it will cause lower paid workers to lose jobs. Yes. So let's say you run a business, Aquila, and you have an employee who you pay $10 an hour and you believe they're worth $10 an hour. But the minimum wage goes up and now you got to pay that $10 person $20 an hour. Would you do that? Would you pay a person who's worth $10, $20? I wouldn't. Because if you're worth $10 and I pay you 20, that means every hour that I pay you, I'm losing $10 because you're worth 10, but I'm giving you 20. So I'm only getting $10 worth of value out of your effort, but I'm paying you $20. That means I'm losing money every hour. And how long can I do that before I'm out of business? So what will happen when the minimum wage goes up is a bunch of people who are not worth the new number are going to get fired because they're not worth it. And any smart business person understands this. We do math. If you're worth $10, I'm not paying you $20. I'm firing you and hiring somebody who's actually worth $20. So you will be unemployed because the new minimum wage is 20, which means everybody has to pay you 20, but you're only worth 10, which means nobody's going to hire you because you're not worth $20. And unless the least amount I'm allowed to pay you is now 20, you're only worth 10. So you ain't getting a job. You're going to be out of a job and unemployed. So the minimum wage actually causes low-level people to be unemployed, not underpaid. So it actually makes the situation worse. All right, a couple more comments, folks, and then I got to go to the bathroom. Ames ATL said, are you serious right now? People pay for healthcare. This is a disgusting take. I wish you karma. All right, well, thank you for wishing me karma. And my take is disgusting? Yes, I'm serious right now. So let's see. Burns said, I paid into the system. Give me half. Keep the other half. Leave me alone. I got it. Flacco said, how are you about Trump getting in? I don't understand that question. All right, a couple more questions, then we got to go, folks. I answered the suit question. Said you will cut their time or find a way to automate. Yes, exactly. You will cut their time and you will automate. This is what happens with companies. What they'll do is they'll take, you remember how businesses used to have delivery people? Like Pizza Hut used to have delivery drivers who worked for Pizza Hut. Now they just contract with DoorDash. So now you don't have employees anymore. Now you got contractors. This is what's happening. So if y'all don't see this, it's happening slowly. It's going to become super obvious. Right now, it's not obvious yet. So states like California are like, well, since we raise the minimum wage, more people have gotten jobs. And that's what they're saying in the short term because it sounds good. But in the long term, that's not what's going to happen. And everybody knows that's not what's going to happen. In the long term, there'll be more automation. There'll be more AI replacing human beings. There'll be more. You walk into a McDonald's or a Burger King, you're not going to talk to a person. You're going to put your order in on the screen. One person's going to make your order and one person's going to hand you the bag. And it's going to be like 3 people working back there instead of 20 people working how it used to be. Where's the other 17 people go? They're out of a job. And if you don't keep up, then that's what happens. Y'all remember what in the movie Friday, what Craig's dad said to him? You ain't got to worry about catching the dog. You got to worry about a dog catching your ass. All right, that's what's happening. Right now, that's what's happening. I really have to go to the bathroom, folks. So workonyourgameuniversity.com. This is where I do my full-time work when I'm not doing these lives. Over there on YouTube, I see a couple of you with comments. Colin G said the issue is high-level business people are better negotiators than employees. Yes, that's correct. And they also offer more value. We can't leave that part out. It's not just negotiation. It's they offer more value. All right, if you're a frontline worker at McDonald's, what are you negotiating? You ain't got no power to negotiate. O-Dog said you should get paid what you negotiate and agree to. Exactly. And obesity doesn't run in families. People in obese families don't run. Yeah, exactly. So lifestyle, that's the point. Lifestyle runs in the family. It's not obesity, it's the lifestyle. So someone said, well, Trump raised inflation. I think inflation is going to go up no matter who's the president because the government is in debt. So no matter what happens, we're going up. Lucy said automation will eliminate jobs whether minimum wage goes up or down as it is. Yes, that's correct. Yes, that is going to happen. I agree with you. All right, everybody. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. I don't know the topic yet. I'll decide. 8 a.m. Eastern is when I start these lives. 8 a.m. Eastern every day on every app you're following me on. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Find me on Instagram as well at Dre Baldwin. My TikTok is Work on Your Game. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Rumble, X, everything else. I really had to go to the bathroom. We out here. Everybody have a great day.